Hello friends, welcome back. This video is the second part of our discussion on cost of capital. Let's first have a quick recap. Let's see some practical application. And previous video we discussed method 1 to find WACC, weighted average cost of capital. In this video let us see the second method for doing the same. Now a small recap. A business entity must consider cost of capital or weighted average cost of capital to uh, find time value of money, and this is what we call as hurdle rate. So business entity must consider cost of capital as its hurdle rate. What is cost of capital? Rate of return to be given, expected to be given by the business entity, supposed to be given by the business entity. In other words, rate of return expected by the investors, those who have funded the business. And all the sources, when we take the overall rate of return, it is that we call as weighted average cost of capital. Overall return, overall cost, or weighted average cost. And as a formula, this is how it is calculated. So this is how we present the formula to calculate WACC. It is denoted by K, that's the standard term used. And this is how we write the formula: KDWD plus KPWP plus KEW. Now, what all do we need to calculate this? Broadly, we need three aspects, three components. One, we should know a given business entity from what sources it has mobilized funds. Two, for each source, what is the cost and what are the weights? What are weights? Proportion of each source in the total funds. Now, what are the sources from which a business can get funds? Though there are a number of sources, broadly, debt, preference, equity. Equity includes retained earnings, everything else that belong to shareholders. Equity is all inclusive. Now, how to find cost for each source, which is what we call specific cost. First, cost of debt. Cost of debt. As a formula, it is very simple. R into 1 minus T. Now, when we make the calculation, what we get is called post-tax cost of debt. If you just take R, it is called pre-tax cost of debt, but the requirement always is post-tax cost of debt. Now, in this, R represents rate of return expected by lenders. Usually, the rate of return expected by lenders depends on the credibility, the credit rating, the safety level of the company. So, credit rating is the basis for identifying R. T is effective tax rate for the company, and R into 1 minus T will give us, after adjusting for tax benefit, what is the rate of return to be given or has been given towards lenders. So this is cost of debt. Cost of preference, very simple, very straight. Rate of dividend itself is taken as cost of preference, or rate of dividend. And since dividend is an appropriation of profit, there is no tax benefit. So we directly consider just the rate of dividend. But what is most exciting and interesting is cost of equity. As far as debt and preference are concerned, there's always an agreed rate of return, interest rate, dividend rate, something which has been identified earlier, predefined, and quite often that itself will be the basis. So at least there is some established rate available. But cost of equity is the challenge. There's nothing established, nothing predefined. So how to find cost of equity? The meaning of cost of equity is rate of return expected by shareholders. So what is the rate of return shareholders are expecting from this company represents cost of equity. To find that, we use a model called CAPM, Capital Asset Pricing Model. According to the model, the rate of return expected by shareholders is captured in this formula RF plus beta into RM minus RF. RF is risk-free rate. That's the minimum return any investor expects because that's the rate of return one can earn without taking any risk. Now, what should be taken as RF? Rate of return on government securities, risk-free securities. Which securities are risk-free? government securities, and government securities could be short-term or long-term. Equity shares being long-term, we consider on long-term government securities, whatever is the rate of interest, rate of return as risk-free rate of return. But since investing in shares are risky, the shareholders are not just expecting risk-free rate, they're expecting something in addition. That something in addition over and above risk-free rate is called premium, risk premium, additional return for taking risk. Now, according to model, premium should be calculated by taking rate of return given by the market minus risk-free rate, RM minus RM. So what is the rate of return given by the stock market as a whole? Over and above risk-free rate represents, in general, on an average, what is the extra return shareholders can expect. This is by the market, which as good as holds good for every shareholder. Now, how to find this market rate of return? Model says you can't take entire market. Take something as a proxy to the market. And what is a proxy? Any index. And any index, what does it tell us? Compared to base year, what is the change in the current year? So a stock index tells if this is the value of stock, market, whatever in the base year, what is its value in the current year? Now, how to find it? So for this, we normally take for a given period, any index data. The example here is for Sensex. So take for as long period as available, or at least 8 to 10 years, or in the problems, at least if to discuss from classroom perspective, for whatever period the data is made available. Take the index data, in this case Sensex data. How to read the Sensex data? But invested 41,253.74 in stock market in 2019. By now, 1 year later, it would have been worth so much. The difference is the return or loss. Return may be positive or negative. Now, once you take the Sensex data, the market data, Sensex represents market, calculate what is called yearly returns. How to find yearly returns? Second year return, second year price minus first year price by first year price. On investing so much, the difference is the return. So, if I'd invested 15,454.92, next year it would have become so much. So, on so much of investment, the difference is the return, which is 25.7%. So, calculate yearly returns and take average, at least as far as the classroom discussion is concerned, for whatever period we have the data, for that period we take average. Usually in reality, for 8 to 10 years, we take average. And this represents RM. So, market return is calculated using any index, Sensex, Nifty, or any index for that matter. Take for as long period as available, at least for 8 to 10 years. Find yearly returns and take average. So, on an average, this is the return given by stock market per annum, which represents market return. So, that minus risk-free rate will give us premium given by stock market. But this is the premium given by the market. As a shareholder, I want to know from my company what is the premium to expect. For that, this risk premium, what we also call market risk premium, we multiply with beta. Now, what is beta? It's a measure of sensitivity. What does it measure? It tells us if so much is the change in the market, what will be the change in the stock? So in simple words, it is a measure which tells us relationship between market and stock. And when I mention the word change, a change is nothing but return. So let's say 38,000 is the Sensex on day 1, year 1, whatever. Next day, next year, let's say it is 39,140. So there is a change, rise, increase by 3%. So 3% change. So change is nothing but return. So if it invested 38,000 and the index becomes 39,140, you got a return of 3%. That is the meaning. So change is nothing but return. So what is beta then? If so much is the return given by the market, what will be the return given by the stock? That is beta. So beta measures with change in market, what will be the change in the stock? So if so much is the market return, what will be the stock return? So if so much is the market premium, how much will be the premium from the stock? If you multiply with beta, we get it. But now, how to calculate this beta? How to interpret this beta first of all? Let's say these are the two scenarios. Market rises by 3%. Market is always represented by a proxy index, Sensex, whatever. So let's say market is raising by 3% or falling by 5%. In these scenarios, what will happen to stock or what can we expect to happen to stock is given by beta. So assume beta is 1.2. How to measure? You have seen in the previous video. Let's see once again. So assume beta is 1.2. What does it mean? If market is raising by 3% or if market is giving a return of 3%, then 3 into 1.2, we can expect the stock prices to rise by 3.6%. We can expect the stock to give a return of 3.6%. Now, if market is falling by 5%, beta is 1.2, 5 into 1.2, we can expect the stock prices to fall by 6%. 5 into 1.26. So if market is losing 5%, can expect the stock prices to lose by 6%, incur a loss of 6%. Now instead, let's say beta is 0.7. What does it mean? If market is raising by 3%, rising by gaining, giving a return of 3%, into 0.7, we can expect the stock prices to rise by 2.1%. Stock to gain by 2.1%. Similarly, if market is falling by 5%, we can expect the stock prices to fall by 5 into 0.7, 3.5%. But if beta is exactly 1, which can happen, it can be any number, it can be even negative, but we will see the interpretation later. What does it mean? If market is raising by 3%, when the stock price also, we can expect to rise by 3%. If market is falling by 5%, we can expect even this also to fall by 5%. So how can we simplify? This is how we represent. Change in market into beta is change in stock. This is the connection. This is the relationship. So once again, if this is the market return, if you know beta, we can find what may be the stock return. So if this is the premium given by the market, into beta will give us what is the premium we can expect from the stock. But now the question is how to calculate this beta. So usually this is what we do. Since beta tells with the change in market, what will be the change in stock. So given market return, what will be the stock return. Such connection relation is statistically what you call regression, where we know the value of one variable, what will be the value of another variable. This is called regression. And while discussing statistics, we have seen usually the practice is what we know, that variable we take as x. What we have to find, that variable we take as y. So that is what we called as regression equation of y on x. And in this regression equation of y on x, what do we have? Alpha plus beta x. So this is called the constant, coefficient, intercept, slope. Please refer back to our video on statistics for finance. How to calculate we have seen. We will see one such example in this video. Now, if so much is x, how much is y? If so much is market return, what will be stock return? That is what we're trying to find. So to this extent, it's constant. So whether market gives a return or not, stock will have so much return assured. But with change in market, the change in stock to this extent. So let's assume, taking as an equation, y represents stock return is equal to alpha, let's say 3 plus 2x. What does it mean? If market return is x, y is stock return, and let's assume market is not giving any return. Yesterday, today, market is same, Sensex is same, no return. Still, stock is giving a return of 3%. So y is equal to 3 plus 2 into 0. But let's say market is giving a return of 1%. Market is raising by 1%. So how much will be the stock return? Plus 2 into 1. So if market is giving 1% return, stock will be giving 5% return, and that 3 is constant, 2 is beta. So any change in x will be change in y to what extent? To the extent of beta. So beta is what measures with the change in market, what will be change in the stock. So how to calculate this beta is what we should know, and this is nothing but the statistics. So X is market return, Y is stock return. So this is the formula for beta. So in our statistics video, we have seen how to make all these calculations, and this is one essential calculation we must remember. We will see one application in this video. And as an example, we are taken, and in reality, this is what will be done. Since we need relation between market and stock, we take market data, stock data. What data? Sensex or any index values and stock prices, at least for 1 year period, usually 1 year daily prices. To find RM, we took yearly data. To find beta, we normally take daily data, or whatever data given for us, we go with that data. But it is not prices what we need. With the change in market, what will be change? Change is nothing but return. So what we need is not Sensex values and stock prices, the return. So how to find market return? On 22nd July, if it invested so much, on 23rd July, it has become so much. So the difference is the return you are earning on an investment of 38,031. So how do we calculate? 38,031.13 minus 37,982.74. 37,982.74 minus 38,031.13 is the return, the difference, divided by this. So let's say you had invested on 25th July. This is how much it has become on 26th July. So difference is the return, 37,882.79 minus 37,830.98. The difference is the return on investment of so much. So we get this. Similarly, we find stock returns. And once we have X and Y, what all to do, what all calculation to make, we have seen, but we will once again see. Please ensure you refer back to our video on statistics. We will repeat the steps here. But in statistics, beta is also called slope. I just abused the Excel function and short, but we will practice how to make this calculation. So this is beta. So once you have beta, you can find from this company stock, from this stock, what is the premium we can expect. So risk-free rate plus premium for taking risk. How to find premium? This is the market premium. Premium given by stock market. Extra return given over and above risk-free rate by market. Into beta will give us from this company stock, what is the extra premium, extra return we can expect. And according to CAPM, this is the model to calculate expected rate of return by shareholders. And this is what we call as cost of equity. So we will see soon. And cost of retained earnings, we actually don't have to calculate separately. When I use the term equity, it includes everything. But just as a separate mention, cost of retained earnings is nothing but cost of equity. Now, the third requirement to calculate WACC using method 1 are weights. And what are weights? Proportion of each source in the total capital. So in the total funds, how much is the percentage of debt? How much is the percentage proportion of preference? That is what we call as weight. But how to calculate this weight? There are 3 choices available. One, to calculate percentage of each source on total, taking value as in the books balance sheet values, or taking market values, or not taking any values, but taking the weights, the proportion in the long run. If a company is having what should be the target capital structure, how the capital structure should be, taking that, we take the weights. But what should be taken? Though we have different choices available, always first preference must be, it's not any choice. We can take whatever we want. This is how it has to be. In case company is identified in the long run, how it want its capital structure to be, how much debt, how much preference, how much equity. If it has identified clearly, weights based on that should be taken. So target capital structure weights is the first priority, must be taken if we have, must. In case we don't have any such information, company does not have any such plan, then we must calculate weights using market value weights. Must. No choice, no other details, book value weights. But in reality, book value weights is never considered. It is always market value weights. If we have target capital structure, weights based on that. If not, It's always market value weights. But for academic discussion in classroom, when problems are given, when we don't have any data, without choice, we take book value weights. So we take the proportion of each source, the total capital using the value in the books, balance sheet values. Now, once you're ready with all this, you're ready to calculate WACC. Now, let's quickly see a few cases how to make this calculation. But all this is just method 1 to find WACC. There's another alternative method. Let us see that. But first, let us get into this. So, let's take a look at this. Hypothetical Limited wishes to calculate its cost of equity capital using capital asset pricing model approach. From the information provided to the firm by the investment advisors, along with firm's own analysis, it is found that risk-free rate of return equals 10%, firm's beta equals 1.5, and return on market portfolio equals 12.5%. Compute cost of equity. So very straight information. All the inputs required to calculate is made available. So we should just calculate cost of equity. So this is the formula to find cost of equity. Once we have risk-free rate, market rate, beta, all that we know is indicates that we should calculate cost of equity using CAPM, and practically that is the best model we need to consider. Though in books we may find many other formulae. In certain circumstances we may make use of it, but this is actually the model which is the best, and we can say only model technically to find cost of equity. Now, this is the formula. What's the first requirement? RF. So RF here is 10%, beta 1.5, return on market portfolio, return on the market 12.5. So 10 plus 1.5 beta into 12.5 minus 10. Risk rate plus beta into RM minus RF. So we have to calculate 12.5 minus 10, and 12.5 minus 10, 2.5% is called market risk premium. So how much is cost of equity? 13.75. Simple. Here all inputs were readily given, so instantly we could calculate. It was just a substitution. But please see the next case. Consider the following figures pertaining to risk-free rate, market rate, return rate of security of A Limited during the last 6 years. So for last 6 years, we are given risk-free rate, market rate, that is rate of return given by the market. How to calculate this market return? We have the idea, yearly returns, out of what's formula, but here it has been readily calculated and given. Similarly, security return, stock return, again, how to calculate, we had seen. So this minus this divided by this, but here again, it has been readily given to us. So here, market rate of return, stock return has been given. On the basis of the above information, you are required to determine cost of equity capital in the context of CAPM. So another case where we have to find cost of equity using CAPM. Friends, this is the formula to calculate cost of equity. Let's list out one by one. First is RF, risk-free rate. Friends, previous case, clearly it was mentioned 10%. But here, we don't have a rate given. Rather, we have for last 6 years, what is the risk-free rate? So, what should we take? Friends, when we have data like this, we have two choices. One, take average. How to take average? Arithmetic mean? Refer back to our discussion on statistics. So, average, total of this divided by 6. Alternatively, risk-free rate average may not be very appropriate in meaning. Remember, last 1 year to 6 years means this is the latest 6th year. So this is the latest year. Currently, what is the risk-free rate? 7. So usually that is the practice. At present, what is the risk-free rate is what we take rather than what is the average for last few years. So how to take risk-free rate? Since we don't have one rate given or given for given period. So either take average, but more appropriate, take the latest figure. And there is nothing right or wrong in this. It's just how we can interpret. So definitely fine. Make your choice. But specify it is this how it has been considered. Give the logic and write absolutely good. So I'm taking the latest rate 7% as risk-free rate. Now what else we need? So RF we have beta RM. So market return RM and beta. Now what is the rate of return by the stock market? We have last 6 years what is the rate? So what's the simplest way to do? Calculate the average. Risk-free rate we take the latest, but market it can be anything. So can't generalize what is this holds good forever. So market rate, how to calculate this return, we already know, readily given, take average. How to take average? So we have to put these numbers here. Market return 14, 3, 21, 26, 3, 11. So average arithmetic mean as a formula. Summation x by n, total of x by n. So total 78 in number of observations. So mean is 78 by 6, 13. So RM is 13%. But there's something more important we need to find cost of equity, beta. Now, what is beta? Measure of sensitivity. It measures with change in market, what will be change in the stock. So if so much is the market return, what will be the stock return? That is the in simple words. And any change in market return will have an effect on stock return to the extent of beta. So that is what we learned in this formula. So any change in market will have a change in stock to this extent. So this is actually what is connecting market and stock. That is the beta we have to calculate. Now how to calculate this beta? So this is where the discussion on statistics come into picture, and this is exactly the requirement. So we should learn statistics in detail. Now I'll present it here itself. So market return X. So always keep in mind, there's a standard practice. What we know, we always take as X. What we should find out, we take as Y. So here, if so much is the market return, what will be the stock return? So always, this is a standard. Always take market return as X and stock return as Y. So this is market return. Just show, differentiate for simplicity. Market return, stock return, take as Y. What are the numbers we have? 8, 11, 29, 8, 11, 29, 25, 7 and 4. So to calculate beta, always this is what we need. We need stock return, market return. Always market return is X, stock return is Y. And how to calculate this beta? That is the requirement. So whatever the statistics we have learned or we must know is essentially to know how to calculate this beta. So let's take beta. How? So from our discussion on statistics, what we learned earlier, just putting all that here, X and Y. First, we should calculate X and Y. And first, we should calculate arithmetic mean. That's our first requirement. How to calculate, we have already seen. So once again, let us see. So total of all x values by n. Total of all x, y values by n. Summation x by n. Or summation y by n, whatever the variable. It's called x bar and y bar. So what is the sum of this? So 78 by 6. 84 by 6. This is arithmetic. And whenever we have two sets of data, by default, just keep ready one template. What we need is a secondary issue. Just keep ready this much for sure. So take what you call small x, small y, x square, y square, and x into y. Just for distinction and simplicity, the market return, stock return is taken as capital X, capital Y. All others were shown in small alphabets, but this is just for us to keep in mind the difference. Now, what is this small x? X minus x bar, x minus arithmetic mean. So, x value minus arithmetic mean. So, same way, 3 minus 13, 21 minus 13, 26 minus 13, 3 minus 13, 11 minus 13. And what is the feature? When you take deviation, the total must be 0. Similarly, y minus y bar, mean of y 14. So y minus 8 minus 14, 6. 11 minus 14, minus 3. 29 minus 14, 15. 25 minus 14, 11. 7 minus 14, minus 7. 4 minus 14, minus 10. Total must be 0. This is a verification that our calculations are correct. So whatever we need, keep this much table ready. So once you calculate mean, then whatever we need irrelevant, first keep so much ready. Then x square, x to the power of 2. So minus 10 square, 100. 8 square, 64. 13 square, 169. 10 square, 100. 2 square, 4. Take the total. Similarly, y square, y to the power of 2. How to calculate using the regular normal calculator? I'm sure it can be done. So 3 square, 9. 15 square, 225. 11 square, 121. 7 square, 49. 10 square, 100 total. And since it is square, plus or minus doesn't matter. It always comes to be positive. Minus 6 into minus 6 plus 36. But when it comes to x into y, x is deviations. Y deviations is deviation of x from x bar, deviation of y from y bar. That x into y, but here be careful with the symbol, since one of them may be positive, one of them may be negative, anything. So x into y. So in the first case, 1 into minus 6, minus 6. Minus 10 into minus 3 plus 30. 8 into 15, 120. 13 into 11, 143. minus 10 into minus 7 plus 70 plus 20. Okay, get. So this is the table we need to make the calculation. This is our requirement. Now, we have arithmetic mean. Now, what all should we calculate? All these are standard calculation. Keep ready. Our requirement is beta, but unless all these are kept ready, whatever we now show, you can't reach calculating beta. So next is variance. Variance. Now how to find variance? X minus x bar deviation square the total of that by n minus 1. So here total of x minus x bar whole square total is 438. So this divided by n minus 1, n was 6 number of years items. So this is variance. Similarly, y minus y bar. So for y, the variance will be this divided by 6 minus 1. Now this is variance. But more than variance, our requirement is standard deviation. If you take the square root of this, you get standard deviation. If you take square root of this, you get standard deviation. Can show up to 2 digits. So you can use an ordinary calculator. 87.6 square root, etc. So as usual, you can do. Now, for each set of data, this is what you should first keep ready. Then, for both these put together, you should calculate something called covariance. Covariance. How to calculate covariance? Summation x into y by n minus 1. Summation total of x into y by n minus 1. So 377 by 6 minus 1. Now, what is the need for covariance? Using this, we calculate correlation. How do we get correlation? This covariance of x and y divided by standard deviation of x into standard deviation of y. So correlation covariance divided by standard deviation of x into standard deviation of y. This is covariance, correlation. Take up to any digit. Friends, now we're ready to calculate beta. When all this is ready, we're ready to calculate beta. All this was effort to calculate beta for the stock. So we were given market return, stock return. How it is calculated, we know. How to calculate beta is what we're seeing. Previous video had shown using an Excel function. But now we're understanding the steps we should go through. What is the statistical working we should do to calculate this beta. Now, how to calculate beta? There are 3 formulae. You can use any, but for exam purpose, either you should use either first formula or second formula. Third formula is only for verification. So what is formula 1? R, correlation into standard deviation of y by standard deviation of x. So correlation is the correlation into standard deviation of y divided by standard deviation of x. If you have the numbers using the standard calculator, you can calculate. So what is the beta we are getting? 0.8607. 0.86 you can say. Now what does 0.86 mean? How do we read it? Whatever the change in the market, the change in the stock will be 0.86 times. So if market is rising by 1%, we can expect stock price to rise by 0.86%. If market is falling by 10%, we can expect stock price to fall by 8.6%, 10 into 0.86. That is beta. Now, what is the second formula to calculate the same beta? So this is the first formula we used. This is the base formula. R into standard deviation of y by standard deviation of x, or covariance between x and y by variance. So that is the reason we kept all this study. Covariance between x and y divided by variance of x. Variance of x. So your variance of x is 87.6. So if I calculate that, covariance between x and y by variance of x, same number. It can't be different. It has to be same. Or alternatively, this is just for verification. In exam, for showing the calculation, we don't show this formula. Summation xy by summation x square. So summation xy, total of xy by total of x square. Okay. So as soon as I make this table, this by this I can get the beta, but that is just for verification, shortcut. All these measures are required, and it's not only beta, we'll have other requirements, so these measures will be necessary. Now, though we don't need for now we don't need, I'm just showing how to calculate alpha. Y bar minus beta into x bar. Y bar, arithmetic mean for y, minus beta into x bar, 2.81. So in case we are asked to write y is equal to 2.81 plus 0.86x. Now this is what we call as regression equation of y on x, where x is market return, y is stock return. So even if market return is 0, what's the return the stock will be giving us? 2.81%. But as the market return rise or fall, you can even see stock return rising or falling to this extent. So if this is 1%, y is equal to 2.81 plus 0.86. This is plus 2%, minus 5%. So, well, this is 2.81 is constant. With the change in market, the change in stock is happening because of which item? Beta. So beta is the measure which tells us the relation between stock and market. So now we know the beta as 0.86. So KE is equal to RF7 plus beta 0.86 into RM13 minus RF7. 13 minus 7, 6% is called risk premium or market risk premium. So 7 plus 0.86 into 6. So what is cost of equity under this method? 12.16%. So how to calculate cost of equity? We have seen using CAPM, and one requirement for that is knowing how to calculate each item, particularly beta, how to calculate that we have seen. Now once we have cost of capital of all the sources, weights, we are ready to calculate WACC. How to calculate the WACC? Please see the third case here. The third case, please see. A company has on its books following amounts and specific cost of each type of capital. So debt, preference, equity, retained earnings. We have book values of each, market values, and specific cost. How to calculate specific cost we learned, but here readily given. Now, 4 sources or combining equity and retained earnings, 3 sources. We have book values, market value, specific cost. All that we have to do is using book value weights, market value weights, we should calculate WACC. Now, firstly, how do we get WACC? Remember, K is how it is denoted. K, it is KDWD plus KEWE plus any order, no problem. KPWP plus KEW. Now, this is the formula to calculate WACC under method 1. Now, what is the cost of debt, cost of preference, cost of equity given readily? Weights, you have choices, nothing mentioned. Target capital structure weight, if you don't have that, market value weight, when that we don't have book value weights. But when asked for, whichever method asked for, let us go with it. So first let us calculate using book value weights. How to calculate? Using book value weights. KE is equal to now, cost of debt. Friends, debt cost is 5% into using book value weight, book values weight. Friends, can you see book value, the total capital is 13 lakhs, in which debt is how much? 4 lakhs. So what is the weight? 4 by 13. And when it is a recurring number, you can just take the fraction. So let's say 5 into 4 by 13. So 4 by 13 is proportion weight. You can calculate decimal. When it's a recurring decimal, better you take it as a fraction. Similarly, cost of preference 8%. Preference in as per book values out of total 13 lakh, 1 lakh. So 8 into 1 by 13 less equity 13, but please be careful. Going by book values, don't take only equity share capital. Equity should include retained earnings and everything that belong to shareholders. Sort of total 13 lakh, 8 lakh is equity. Equity means shareholders funds. So 8 by 13. So 13% into 8 by 13. Now this is the formula. So it is 5 into 4. 5 into 4 by 13 plus 8 into 1 by 13 plus 13 into 8 by 13. So round off to nearest digit. So going by book value weights, what is the WACC? 10.15%. This is book value weights. Now let's do the same now using market value weights. Using market value weights. Now, same KD, KP, KE, same. What is the difference? Weights. So let's see the market values. Friends, 3,80,000, 1,10,000, 12 lakh are the market values. Total 16,90,000. So we should calculate weights using this. Calculate in decimal or as a fraction. So what is the weight of debt? 3,80,000 by 16,90,000, or since if I can remove zeros, 38 by 169. So this I take as 38 by 169. 38 by 169. This is the weight of debt. How about weight of preference? 1,10,000 by 16,90,000, or 11 by 169. 11 by 169 is the weight of preference, and equity 12 lakh by 16,90,000, or 120 by 169. 120 by 169. Now this is using market value weights how to calculate. So it is 5 into 38 by 169 plus 8 into 11 by 169 plus 13 into 120 by 169. So you get 10.88% something. This is WACC. So using book value weights, using market value weights, how to calculate is what we have seen. Simple, good. But given a choice, which should you consider? You must consider WACC calculated using market value weights. Fine. Friends, till now, what we discussed was method 1 to calculate WACC, where this was the formula. This is how you calculated cost of debt, cost of preference, cost of equity. And to calculate cost of equity, what have we taken? CAPM. But while discussing CAPM, we discussed a concept called beta. What does this beta tell us? It gives us the connection between, relation between market and equity share. Relation between market and stock, equity shares. So much is the return given by the market or the return given by the stock. But please give a thought. Is it always only equity shares that are listed and traded in the market? Let's say we have preference shares. Assume we have preference shares issued by our company, which are also listed and traded. Which means even for preference shares, we can get the prices every day. So we can find everyday return. So exactly same as how we calculated beta for stock, we can also calculate beta for preference shares. So in this example, let us say this is the return given by preference shares. When can we find it? When we have preference share prices available on a daily basis or whatever period. And when will it be available? When they are listed and traded. And there are preference shares of many companies which are traded in the market. So where we have preference share prices also available, then how we calculated beta for equity shares, same way, same calculation. Just instead of taking equity share prices, we are taking preference share prices and calculating. Which means beta is not something available only for equity shares. For any instrument traded in the market, you can calculate beta. Now, let us say our company is having debentures. We have raised loan by issuing debentures, and assume these debentures are listed in the market and traded. If you go to website NSE, BSE, you can also see which are the bonds, debt instruments traded in the market. So like shares, even bonds are also traded, which means even for debentures, we can find the prices on a daily basis. So every day we will have prices available. If so, then again, even for bonds, we can find returns every day. So instead of stock return, I can take debenture return. Debenture return. If we have, then I can also calculate beta for debt. Beta for debt. Beta for debentures. So what is beta we know? How did we calculate beta? By taking market return, stock return. How did we calculate stock return? By taking the prices of the stock on daily basis or whatever period given. So if we have prices of preference shares available on a regular basis, price of bonds available on a regular basis, even for debt and preference shares also we can have beta. Now, when you can calculate beta for debt and preference shares also, which means to calculate cost of debt, cost of preference also, we can make use of cost CAPM. So initially we learned CAPM as a model to calculate cost of equity. But CAPM can be used to calculate cost of any instrument if for that instrument you can calculate beta. How we calculated beta for stock? Same way. Only you need daily prices or regular period prices available. And if debentures are traded in the market, we will have prices available. Preferences are traded in the market, we will have prices available. So when available, you can calculate beta for any instrument. So how we have beta for stock, equity, we can also have beta for preference shares, we can also have beta for debt. Now, why are we discussing this? This is the foundation for our second method of calculating WACC. How to calculate? Let us take with an illustration. Through an example, let us understand the calculation. So please observe this. All this is part of the study material that has been given. So please take a look at the study material, find these problems. We're solving those problems. The observed beta on the equity of levered firm. What is this term levered? You should be knowing. We will see as we proceed further. In simple words, levered firm is a firm which has borrowing in the capital structure. A company which has no borrowing is called unlevered. But why these terms? Why it is so called? We'll see a little later. So equity, beta for equity shares is 1.2. Beta of debt is 0.2. So we also have debt beta given. How can it be possible? When we have debentures traded in the market, every day we have debenture prices, then even for debt you can calculate beta. So for any instrument you can calculate beta. The company has a debt equity ratio of 0.4. Now what do you mean by debt equity ratio? debt equity ratio. So when you say debt equity ratio 0.4, it actually means 0.4:1 ratio. What does this mean? How do we read it? In this company, for every 1 rupee of equity, we have a debt of 40 paise. Every 1 rupee of equity, we have a debt of 40 paise. So what is the total funds? 1.4. So out of 1.4 total funds, 40 paise is debt, 1 rupee is equity. That is the meaning of debt equity ratio. So it is expressed in ratio. So this company has a debt equity ratio of 0.4. Risk-free rate of return is 10% RF. Market risk premium is 9%. Market risk premium. Please see this premium, that is RM minus RF. It's not market return, market premium. How do we get market premium? RM minus RF, 9%. What is firm else? Cost of debt, cost of equity, and opportunity cost of capital is the first question. Opportunity cost of capital is nothing but overall cost of capital, or WACC. Now, there is another question which we will see later. So, given this data, they want us to find cost of debt, cost of equity, and overall cost. Now, earlier, how were we calculating cost of debt? R into 1 minus T. Friends, since we have beta given for debt also, so even for debt, we should make use of CAPM. So, in general, KD is R into 1 minus T, correct? But when we are able to calculate beta for debt, then even for cost of debt, we should use CAPM. So in this case, how to calculate cost of debt? Cost of debt, KD. Just use this formula. Cost of debt, KD is equal to RF plus, friends, I'm writing this way, beta of debt. Beta of debt, since now we have beta for different instruments. So KD is equal to RF has been given as risk rate is 10%, premium 9%. For debt, the beta is 0.2. So 10 plus 0.2 into 9. So 10 plus 0.2 into 9. Friends, this is cost of debt. Since we had beta for debt available, we use CAPM. Now, next requirement is cost of equity. Cost of equity. So, cost of equity, this is the formula. And everything is known. RF premium remains same. For equity, the beta is 1.2. So, same. Cost of equity. This is the formula. So 10 plus 1.2 into 9. Now this is cost of equity. So both we use CAPM. And here we don't have any details of preference shares. So how do we calculate K WACC? WACC. This is the formula, method 1, mind you, till now we're discussing method 1. So since we don't have preference, I just write so much. We have everything available. KD, we calculated. WD, from debt equity ratio, we know 0.4:1. So total is 1.4. 0.4 by 1.4 is debt. 1 by 1.4 is equity. So I take 11.8. 11.8 into 0.4 by 1.4 plus 20.8 into 1 by 1.4. 11.8 into 0.4 by 1.4 plus 20.8 into 1 by 1.4. 11. 11.8 into 0.4 by 1.4 plus 20.8 into 1 by 1.4, 18.2. Now this is WACC, we know. But whatever we discussed till now is method 1, first method. Only difference, to find KD, we didn't use the earlier discussed formula. We used CAPM because even for debt we had beta. But friends, the very same. Now let me show under another method. Method 2 of calculating WACC. All this when it was method 1. Now let us see what is method 2 for calculating WACC. Very interesting, friends. To calculate cost of equity, we used CAPM. If we have beta for preference debt, even to calculate cost of preference and cost of debt, we can use CAPM. But what is interesting is not only to find cost of equity, cost of preference, cost of debt, we can use CAPM even to calculate WACC. So this is the second method to calculate WACC. K is equal to CAPM model RF plus RM minus RF into beta. If it is for equity shares, we take equity beta, beta of equity. It is for preference shares, we take beta of preference shares. If it is debt, we take beta of debt. But now, since we have to find overall cost of capital, we should take beta for the company. Beta for the company. So this is beta of debt. Here I could have mentioned beta of equity. But now, exact same formula we use. Exact same formula. Difference is K is equal to RF plus beta for the company. Now we know RF, we know RM minus RF. But what is this beta for the company? Company beta. Hence company beta is nothing but weighted average beta. This company beta is also called as asset beta. How to calculate? Very simple. Beta of debt into weight of debt plus beta of preference into weight of preference plus beta of equity into weight of equity. If you don't have preference, of course, beta of debt into weight of debt plus beta of equity into weight of equity. This is the main formula. Depending on which source we have, we use. So if we use this, we get not just for equity, for the company, what is the beta? Company as a whole, what is the beta? Then simple substitution. So in this case, friends, we know RF as 10% already known. RM minus RF also we know 9% because the market is premium. But what we need is, friends, company beta. Company beta. How do you get company beta? In this case, we don't have preference shares. We don't have preference shares. So this is the formula. Then this is the formula for company beta. So how to calculate then? Company beta is equal to company beta is equal to, friends, in this, debt beta was 0.2. Weight of debt 0.4 by 1.4 plus equity beta 1.2. Equity weight 1 by 1.4. So 0.2 into 0.4 by 1.4 plus 1.2 into 1 by 1.4. Hence, this is company beta. So it's not beta for the stock, beta for debt, beta for the company. Company beta is nothing but weighted average beta. So for each source beta, for each source weight, multiply, add, that is what you call company beta. Now we are ready to calculate K. So K is RF10 plus company beta 0.9143 into premium 9. So 10 plus 0.9143 into 9. Can you see the very same percentage? 18.23. So method 1, we got 18.23. Same, use any method. Now, which method should we use? Why do we need the second method? You will see its application very soon, but this is another method of calculating WACC. And in this method, we calculate beta for the company as a whole. And how do we calculate beta for the company? This is how we do. Beta for company is weighted average beta. If you have preference shares, even that we take. So beta of debt into beta of debt. That's beta of equity, beta. But friends, in this, they're given one more scenario. How will these estimates change if debt was risk-free? What do you mean by debt is risk-free? No impact of market on debt. Whatever change in the market, there is no effect on market. In other words, debt beta is 0. Debt beta 0. And equity beta is 1.2. So equity beta 1.2, but debt is risk-free, means beta is 0. So if that is the case, how to calculate? So let us once again show under all the cases. I'm just repeating everything here. So cost of debt. We are using CAPM, but debt beta 0. Debt beta 0. So automatically, what will be the cost of debt? Risk rate itself. No risk, no beta. Correct. Similarly, cost of equity, everything same. Beta, everything remains same, no change. So here, instead of 11.8, 10 into 0.4 by 1.4, cost of equity 20.8 by so much. So, and this will be K. This is under method 1. Instead, method 2, we use CAPM itself to calculate WACC. Everything same, only we need what is called company beta. It's also called asset beta. Why, so, what, you will see. And what's the difference? Here, beta for debt is 0. Beta for debt is 0. So if I take that number 0.8571, so same number. Okay. And this is method 2 for calculate WACC. What's the relevance of this method? Why this plays an important role in strategic financial management is something you will explore as we start discussion into the subject. But so much foundation is essential. Now, one small point at the end. Friends, equity beta. How to calculate? We have seen what all inputs we need to know. But debt beta and preference beta. Friends, nothing said, nothing mentioned. Normally we take this as 0 because usually the price of debentures, price of preference shares in the market will not be very far from face value. What are the face value? If 100 rupees the face value, debenture price in the market will be around that 101, 102, 94, 96, 98, 99. In fact, it won't be too much of variation. Impossible, it won't happen. When the price is closer, return is small. So the debt beta will be very close to 0 or most of the time 0. Similarly, even preference shares, the return what you calculate will be very negligible because the price movement is not big. equity shares, face value could be something, market value could be anything. But debt and preference, since the price variations is very small, variations very small, the beta what you find will be very close to zero or most of the time zero. So nothing said, that is the standard assumption because that is the reality. Now this is second method. And what is essential when it comes to calculating WACC is knowing how to calculate beta. So it's not only for equity, for any instrument, and for the company as a whole, we have this term beta. So be familiar firstly, please practice statistics, how to calculate this beta. However, how much ever clarity you have, trust me, all the calculation later becomes that much simple. This is the case. But there's some extension, very interesting extension we have in cost of capital based on this second method what we discussed. The second method of WACC, there's some very interesting adjustments called unlevering, relevering. What is this? When should we do it? Why should we do it? How to do it? In the subject strategic financial management, when we come to the relevant places, we'll be discussing about it. But if you have good understanding of what you learned about WACC, then these adjustments will be understood. But when we will discuss this part of it as a part of the subject. But please ensure you practice all this completely, thoroughly. And if this is clear, you will see our discussion on the subject will always be simple. So please visit our website, drvrk.in. Check out the courses we offer. Enroll yourself for the course on strategic financial management, meant for CA final and CMA final. You will get all the remaining learning there. So enjoy your learning. Please ensure practice, and practice makes man perfect. More you practice, more clarity. Later, the time you need to take for learning is very less. So approach learning the subject in the right way. And all these foundations, what I captured in the videos, is what you must know before you start learning the subject called strategic financial management or anything in finance. Have a great learning. All the best.